This is session 11 of the audio series Overcoming Social Anxiety Step by Step. You've come a long way, and now we're ready to make some more progress. If you've come this far, listening to the tapes in order, and taken the time to work on the handout strategies, statements, concepts, and techniques, you deserve to congratulate yourself now. By this time, you should be able to use slow talk out in public with other people. Let me emphasize this to you again. If you have practiced slowing talk and slowing things down enough, you are not only feeling more relaxed and at peace when you use slow talk, but you are also able to carry this out to the real world and feel the anxiety reduction that goes along with it. If this is not happening for you by now, go back to tape number 2 and refresh yourself on slow talk, and then begin practicing it as your only therapy for the next week. Do not go on with this tape series unless slow talk is now a comfortable part of your anti-anxiety progress. It is vitally important by week 11 that slow talk has become something you can use whenever you need to use it. We are still not expecting perfection, but you should have some ability to calm yourself down in private and in public using this technique. Slow talk becomes even more valuable as we continue on through this tape series. We also want to check on how you are handling your automatic negative thoughts. Is it easier now to catch them when they occur and to find a distraction to turn away from them? Do you have some good thoughts of your own that pop up when the ants try to control your thinking? Does the phrase lying ants or bullying ants hit your brain when the ants begin to try to do their damage? We want to keep reinforcing the ants handout until it is so very automatic that you could never possibly forget it under any circumstances. Then, how are the deserving statements going? Remember that these are harder for some people than they are for others, but we want to reinforce these very truthful statements until we begin to feel that they are true. We want the feeling, not just the head knowledge. It is the same with last week's moving in a positive direction statements. It is especially important to read over in slow talk the positive statements you don't feel belong to you yet. We want to be sure that you begin to feel better and more rationally about yourself, your capabilities, and your life. The moving in a positive direction statements are very important in accomplishing this goal. Is the fighting paradox something you can now identify with quickly? Do you know what I'm referring to? If you don't, it's important that you go back to the tape or the handout dealing with the fighting paradox. Because if we use our negative emotions in any of the 5 ways mentioned on this handout, we are just fueling the fires of our anxiety, and this tape series is not going to do us any good. Acceptance, even though it is a paradox, is a necessary step before we can legitimately overcome social anxiety. You may want to remember the Wizard of Oz parallel and the Star Trek episode here. What about the attitudes we want to use against social anxiety? Who cares? It's no big deal. Why am I dwelling on this anyway? I've got better things to do than listen to a bullying liar. So what? Why should I make a mountain out of a molehill? Keep reading over these attitudes and let them sink down into your brain. Maybe you're able to feel these already. Let me add a word to the whys here. If you were here in person for cognitive behavioral therapy, we would be checking to see if you've been doing the above handouts every week. That is why personal one-to-one therapy has power. In order to achieve the same results, please understand that my goal is to help you be successful too. There is no shortcut to overcoming social anxiety or a Reader's Digest approach to getting better. We need to cover everything in this series, allow some time for it to sink down deeply into our minds, and be patient and persistent about reaching our goal. Hence, I emphasize the same things to you, just as if we were sitting in the office together and you and I were talking one-on-one. To illustrate the importance of my point and how it affects overcoming social anxiety, we know that if a person hasn't been reading the ants handout over the past few weeks, their automatic negative thoughts are likely to be running rampant. And if slow talk hasn't been tried, then the handouts aren't even getting into the brain in the correct fashion. I want you to get over social anxiety disorder so that you can lead a happy, unrestricted, positive life. So please do not skip important handouts, methods, concepts, and techniques. And as you move along, even though sometimes it is difficult, please be encouraged. It only makes things worse when you beat yourself up. As you've been moving along, things have been happening, even when you're not aware of it. Any time you begin to change the brain and its functioning, you are working with permanent changes. So keep it up and give yourself some long overdue credit. Today, for our next new handout, we will be discussing focusing and how it keeps us away from anxiety. You will find this handout in your notebook. Please follow along with me as I read it to you. When anxiety comes around in any form, and this includes anticipatory anxiety, we want our attention and our focus to be on external things, not on our internal feelings. Our internal feelings are liars when they involve anxiety. Therefore, by focusing on the way we feel inside, which is anxious, we only reinforce and renew our anxiety. For example, when we give a performance, make a public talk or presentation, or do anything in public socially, we do not want to dwell on our anxiety. Instead, you want to focus externally on something else, anything that is a distraction, anything that will get your mind away from feeling anxiously and thinking anxiously. Say to yourself, I need to call my anxiety, which is irrational, exactly what it is, a liar, and then focus away from it. Focus externally. I do not need to sit, dwell, ruminate, and scare myself to death by letting this lying anxiety grow. I need to get active and get my mind moving in a positive direction on some external situation. If we're following a logical progression toward becoming better, our focus should be outward. Our focus should be external. We must not get into the habit of checking in with our anxiety and then do things on the basis of how we feel. Our feelings lie to us, and if we focus on them, they will only grow and make us more anxious. Our focus should always be on what we do. We need to do something, even if it causes a little anxiety, whether we feel like it or not. In other words, our focus should not be on ourselves and the way we feel. We can never gauge our progress by checking the emotion that gives us pain, because if we continually check our anxiety, we will be reinforcing it, allowing it to grow, and fueling the fire. Therefore, the correct question becomes, did I do what I was going to do? If I did, I am successful simply because I did it. But more than that, the chances are very high that you are also successful, period, at the task. The only person who debates your success many times is you, and of course those nasty lying ants' thoughts. But remember, those ants' thoughts will wither up and die when we stop focusing on them. They like internal attention, so take the attention away from them. Focus outwardly. Focus externally, not on the way you are feeling inside, not on the lying ants' feelings and thoughts. If you're at a meeting and you're anxious, focus on the papers in front of you, the speaker, or start to take down notes. Do something that puts your attention on other external things. In different situations, you can notice a picture on the wall, or the names of books in a bookshelf. But pay attention to the world around you as much as possible, and shut off those internal ants' feelings as much as you can. Do not look internally, and do not go by your feelings. Remember, your feelings can lie just like your thoughts. Feelings can be ants too. If the social task you're doing is in your logical progression forward, that is your common sense, step-by-step hierarchy, then relax, loosen up, and focus externally on something outside of yourself. At first, your feelings will lie to you because they are accustomed to years and years of negative conditioning and expectations. But gradually, as you focus away from them and don't give them any of your power, they will have no choice but to change. Focus outwardly, do what is in your hierarchy, and you are successful, period. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about this. You accomplished what you needed to do, and you did it. You are successful. Give yourself a lot of credit for what you have done. We must learn not to live by our feelings right now. Our feelings can be big ants' traps. You may feel exhausted, tired, and weak because of your social anxiety. You may feel like lying down and going to bed. But if you challenge this feeling a little, get a little active, move around, go exercise, and don't give in to the feeling of exhaustion,